Alright, how's everybody doing today? I hope everybody's surviving the day okay. Yeah, it's still hot, it's still crazy stuff, right? Fires burning everywhere. We actually had an earthquake down here around my neck of the woods. Is what it is, like I said, that's the way it's going to be for however long. But let's go. I want to show you something here. So I don't know, it's been a while since I talked about the gas giants and like Pluto and Pluto's proximity to the sun and Neptune, right? So right here it says Neptune is definitely the odd one out of the gas giants. Basically what it's saying here, that might be because Triton, by far Neptune's largest moon, absolutely obliterated the regular moon system it previously had, except for one particular exception. Okay? Now, to me, Triton is also one of Saturn's moons, is it not? So, and then if you look at what they want to show us about our system, we have the asteroid belt around us. So that would be, you know, the micro and the macro, right? Okay, so Triton is weird. It rotates the opposite direction to Neptune itself, which means it did not form naturally as part of the planetary system. Okay, now Pluto, of course, they're saying isn't a planet anymore, but it is what it is. But what I find funny is right here, Charon. Okay, so when I did the video the other day about let this be your last battlefield, the half white, half black people, right? They were getting to the planet Charon. That's where they were from. So there's some little weird coinky dinks in there. Just, you know, strange stuff, right? So apart from that, let's get up here, because that actually goes way back. I got to get back up into here where I was. Okay, so here's a picture of what we call the Heart Nebula, and I said Earth is the heart of the matter. So there we are again, blue, red, right? The blue and red conchina, which is why there's blue and red lights on police cars, which is why there's Republican and Democrat blue and red, which is why barber poles are blue and red, which is also why you have blue and red blood in your body. Just saying. Okay, so this is where it's going to get really crazy. So if we go into the matrix, right? If we live in this matrix, so to speak, you know, they'll tell you we have these things called chakras, right? Okay, so keep that in mind. We're going to visit my email here because I saved something over here. And hang on, let's okay, is this it right here? And it's really hard to have all this prepped ahead of time because, like I said, I don't have oh, this is the part. See, the child tells him there is no spoon, right? Okay, that's kind of symbology there. It's not real, right? But that isn't the one I'm looking for. I'm sorry. I think we got to go learn this. Okay, so right here, this is where it's going to get really weird, in my opinion. Oh, yeah, that's really weird with commercials. Yeah, I'm just an old guy with a phone and a device to play with. I don't have, you know, all this share feature and stuff. If anyone's seen The Matrix, this is where they find Neo and pull him out of the little thing that he's in, right? I'm going to turn that down. We don't need to hear that. Okay, he reaches back here. Now pay attention here, okay, because this scene right here, not exactly, but this is kind of what happened to me. And I can't explain it. I don't want to try to explain it. I didn't see all that. Okay, see the machine here? Now pay attention. Now he's looking at the machine's looking back at him, and right in here it grabs him, and right there he sees his reflection right there. See that? He sees his reflection in the machine, and then he undoes him. Bam, 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 bam. Right now, pay attention here. Right there, bam, bam, bam. What are the chances those are your chakra points? You know, in the Deep Purple song, it talks about silver strings touching more than you know. You know, again, who knows, right? It's just another way that I look at things. Because the things that are unknown only become potential. So right there's your supposed chakra points. That's more than likely where we are hooked up to the machine world, so to speak. The other thing, oh yeah, there's the earthquake we had down here. Of course, I wasn't near it. This is another one that's kind of an oddity. We have this organ in our body called the appendix. And they'll just, you know, willy-nilly take it out of you. Now here's what they say about it, right? It has to do with white blood cells. Now other things that I've looked into that I don't have on this particular phone is they said it actually is a hangover, a leftover from the Neanderthal days. And supposedly it was used when we ate wood. I'm just saying, and I wish I had all that in here to show you because that's what they said. But it very well could be the internal part of us that we use to transmute energy, because it is tied into our immune system, if you will. And your immune system is what defends you, correct? So I'll just let that stir around in your brain for a minute, let you think what you want of that. Because like I said, it all is what it is. So the other thing that showed up on the Schumann is that thing right there. Now, there isn't an actual break, but you know, when I look at these things and what I'm looking for, right, is this, see the straight line cut off right here, right? And there's a straight line cut off right here. See that? And then we have another space. You know, we have a spike, our straight line. This would have been about, you know, midnight-ish, somewhere in there. I think that's just another expanse in the timeline, so to speak. Going back to the three temples, you know, 1, 2, the 3 different worlds, the 3 different realities, whatever you want to call it. So that's just some more of Scott's, you know, really weird stuff. Now I do want to go back to, because I really should have said more about this when I talked about it on my last video. I'm sorry, okay, when I brought this up and I was talking about the 7 sevens, okay, the double portion, and again, that isn't as hooty-dooty as you think, okay? Because the double portions mean you get an extra dose of crap in your life as well as the extra dose of good. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you about, my whole past and the troubles I went through, but just to throw some stuff out there, I'm one of those guys that you hear about that came home from work one day and discovered his bank account drained and both his children missing and his then wife gone. Okay, my kids were kidnapped, blah, 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 blah. Okay, not everybody gets to experience that kind of crap. Just like later on down the road, coming home from work, I got served, and if people know me, I actually got served with a restraining order to leave my own house. And I had to quickly go find a place to live till it could go to court. Now, of course, I won in court, but when you're dealing with kids and the trauma, that mess had already been done, right? So you get intense double portions. And the only thing, quite honestly, that has gotten me from my childhood, now on the flip side of this, when I worked out all that stuff, got through court, did my own thing, then I had other aspects of my life that were incredibly successful. I started my business, was well known across the country. My shop was. You may not have heard of it. If you're in the fishing circles, I used to do a lot of work for the crappie masters people that travel around the country. I did bass tournament guys. Plus, I did all the leisure crafts. A lot of people knew who I was, and I did well. So, in a lot of aspects, I did a lot better than people I knew. But at the same time, I went through a lot more crap than people I knew. Okay, and what usually got me through it the most was I always told myself, God never gives me more than I can handle. Okay? There's just some things we're going to have to deal with. Like I said, if we were all to sit down and compare notes of our lives, everybody's gone through stuff. It just depends on the degree, and it has nothing to do with, being I'm ultra evil, so I had to go through all this crap, and then I somehow became good, right? So I got a bone. No, it doesn't work that way. So like I say, in this, I never knew this about me. Okay, like I said, I put my name in YouTube and I went to chat rooms. I did all my studying on the side, reading the books, and that was a nice thing about having a business. I could put in audio books. I was consuming information to the tune of about 12 to 18 hours a day. I just was taking in every single thing, everything from our government, how they're all related, to the big pharma companies, to the food industry. In fact, in our neck of the woods, when the COVID mandates came down, I'd already seen that crap sweeping across the nation. And I was one of those guys that as soon as they passed the mandate, I actually tried to citizens arrest the entire city council. Now, unfortunately, when you do a citizens arrest, you have to have a badge with you. And I had a week to prep for the town hall meeting, and because everybody knew who I was, I mean, for crying out loud, I coached half their daughters in softball. The sheriff of the department of the town, who is supposed to uphold the Constitution, I saw him several times a week, just because his granddaughter I coached in softball. Everybody knew me. But when you go against the rub, or, whatever, you also are known by everybody around as the guy who tried to arrest the city council members, and half of them are their friends, and it is what it is. So, this may seem like a blessing, and it kind of was, because you get both aspects. but at times it was very, very difficult, and you just had to work through it. And I don't even know how to say anything other than that. But somebody actually pointed this out to me. I knew nothing about this part here. Someone said, "Hey, you know, your name has 2 sevens." I'd also mentioned my birthday, and they sent me a whole thing about, you know, my birthday and what day of the year it fell on, and it is what it is. So like I said, I wasn't worried about me. I was just looking at what I saw in the world, and other people pointed this stuff out for me. So having said that, you know, it's not exactly... you take the good with the bad, right? That's how we deal with all of it. And just understand that some of the bad has nothing to do with you, where some of it does. I've worked with people who were going through meth rehab, and they were complaining that it was far easier to do life when they were being bad than when they turned around and started doing good, because once they started doing good, all kinds of shit fell on them. Well, that also has to do with karma, I believe. You have to dig yourself out from your own messes, so to speak. Now, I think some of them are thrust upon you as a test, and I think some of them are put on you just from your own doing. Hard to differentiate between the two. So we'll just leave that as that. So, you know, that's Scott's corniness for the day. As far as the chakras, the silver strands that connect us, probably to AI, who knows? Because like I said, the only thing that I know that I was looking into was the cycles. And this is where, you know, your pre-trib, post-trib, mid-trib all come into play. Okay, because if we are in, and let's get back over here, if we are in this fourth world, okay, and they say that this is going to be our 6th extinction level event in our supposed history. Well, there's only the 4 windows of time. So you had the post-trib, after everything got destroyed, that brought things back. But in 2 of those windows, there had to have been a mid-trib to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 extinction level events. See what I'm saying? So that's where that comes into play. Because I don't think we're playing it out completely linearly either. Because that isn't how time works. Like I said, the aircraft carriers were missing at Pearl Harbor during World War II. And now we know where they were, right? And then when you go back into World War II, we had the Battle of the Coral Sea. And if you read the history books, that was like one of the first sea military engagements where the battle took place hundreds of miles away between airplanes and the ships, not the navies directly. Okay? One aircraft carrier was hit bad enough they had to scuttle it. The other one was repaired within 72 hours and was underway. So there's just that little tidbit. And again, if you look at the oceans as symbolic of space, right? Sailing ships were probably ships made with solar sails. You know, your aircraft carriers are those big motherships, right? They're huge. They're the size of cities, so to speak. Lots of people on board, and they've got all these little aircraft that take off of them, right? And they land back on them. So, and then if you also look at, and I didn't put any of this in here, there's an old TV show called Battlestar Galactica. And you had Baltar, right? He was the human that was teaming up with the Cylons, the clones, if you will, to go against his other humans. So in the case of, say, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, their connection, potentially, right? Because like I said, the unknown, unless you know something, everything else is unknown. It just becomes potential. So that is potentially what could have happened. This is potentially what could have happened. We don't know the whole story, right? And we'll probably never know, and it's probably better that way. So, wow, look at that 20. This video is already getting kind of lengthy. So, today's the 23rd, so if we have Christmas in July, that'll be 2 more days. If we have to go to, say, August 6th or August 9th, now I know a lot of people are looking into these other eclipses that are coming up, like I think there's one August 13th. I haven't done a lot of studying, like I just got out of the shop. We've been, what did we do? We pulled a diesel motor yesterday out of a big Cummins Dodge, and today broke it all down, and it had some 3 of the cylinders, the rods and pistons in them. The wrist pins were bad. Pistons were banging on the valves. I mean, had to tear all that apart. Plus, we had to do a transmission service on another Dodge. We actually stayed pretty busy. So it's not like I'm just sitting around waiting. You know, we have to, and this is how I've done everything. You know, I always have to plan for tomorrow, even though tomorrow is not promised to anybody, because we don't know when that date is. So I'm always moving forward. I'm always helping people, doing my thing, but ultimately I know none of it's real. And just like being released from the Matrix, so to speak, if you've ever watched that movie, Cypher, you know, he wanted to go back into the Matrix, right? And Neo asked Morpheus the question, I can't go back, can I? And Morpheus said, no, but even if you could, would you? So living off the grid, so to speak, like I've been doing, is kind of like its own little rough spell. And as far as you're not putting yourself in a position to take advantage of other luxuries, or what people would call luxuries, but at the same time, I would not want to go back to the mentality I had before about what's real and what isn't real either. So, so that should be enough for today. Just hold on with the weather. I haven't even looked at the weather maps. I don't know who's getting pounded, who's not right now. I just know it's still hot where I'm at. I know there's Big Bertha, right, hanging down off the coast. Now, it did avoid Florida. It grazed it, so it didn't dive inland. So I think that's also a timeline correction. And the other thing to remember, I said this in a video a while back, so when you're going backwards through time to undo certain timelines, you're always dealing with what led up to. That's why I said this story is going to play out right to where it got destroyed, and it will be destroyed again, just not in the sense that everybody thinks of destruction, because everything's going to change of a blink of an eye, and that is what they call sudden destruction. When, you know, everybody's talking about when they say peace and safety, then comes sudden destruction. It isn't that they're going to be launching bombs. I personally don't think, you know, there's all kinds of people out there on the internet projecting fear porn. You know, the market's going to collapse and chaos in the streets, and no, me personally, I don't see that. We're just going to be heading right towards that destruction, and something's going to come about, and instead of that destruction, everything's going to change. And this reality, when they say sudden destruction comes, it's going to be this reality. Okay, not the missiles, not the whatever, okay? So anyway, that's just my opinion, right or wrong. You know, like I said, it's not about right or wrong. It's just being authentic with what we see. And that's just how I see it. Now, you know, we'll see. Time will tell, right? And hindsight is always 20/20. So anyway, so hold on tight. Stay strong. Remember, what we have inside of us is greater than that is in the world. Remember? You know, this is part of, you know, the brain rot, the programming, whatever you want to call it, that they manipulate your mind with. Okay? Again, I showed you the brain, the universe, it all comes from thought, right? So the same thought process that created everything is part of that same thought process that landed inside of your body, that first temple. Not this temple. We still have it in us. The kingdom is within us, right? And that's why it's within us. Because we were part of it at the very beginning when everything was created. So Satan took the place on high and called himself God, when in actuality it's the other way around. There's everyday Joes, you, me, whatever, that are the gods, so to speak, that are part of the everything. And it could very well be, like I said, you know, if you watch the Terminator movies, it's a big cycle. You had the machines racing back in time to kill the people that would take down Skynet, right? You had the people racing back in time to do away with the people that made the machines. And actually, it was their own fear within the movie of the Great War coming that actually created the war. And in that movie, that kind of caught them in this relentless cycle, which kind of what we're in, but it's not going to come to that. That's why I said, you know, Baltar with Battlestar Galactica, and you got Donald Trump and Elon Musk. It's just how I see things. So anyway, hold on tight or hold on loosely, as 38 Special would say, right? It's not real. I mean, it's real. And believe me, you know, for all the times that I say it's not real, just what this reality isn't how it's supposed to be. That's what not real means. Okay, you know, just earlier this week, like I said, I smashed my hand, I broke part of my finger. That was very real. I've had accidents before where I broke my ankle and my doctor said I basically removed my foot from the bottom of my leg and I've got like a dozen screws holding it together. That was very real. Okay, but it's not how it's supposed to be. We'll just put it that way. So anyway, I'll try this again. Y'all take care. Hold on loosely. If you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. And I love you all, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.